Hey everybody, Jazzy here. Don't Starve Together just received another very big update. Troubled Waters is now live in the beta branch, and I'm here to cover everything new. This is the 5th major release of updates under the Return of Them theme and focuses on the addition of new ocean enemies. But it also adds a few new craftables and 8 new crock pot recipes. So definitely stick around to the end because you're not going to want to miss the veggie burgers and leaf loaf. First up, we have some new crafting recipes in the Nautical tab, including 2 Mast Upgrades. I never would have thought of the idea, but it is the perfect solution for a tiny boat cluttered with necessary structures such as lightning rods and fire pits. We now have the Deck Illuminator, which will provide light from atop your mast for up to 6 minutes. So it has the same max burn time as a fire pit, but requires twice the fuel to stay lit. Boards which usually max out a fire pit will only restore 50% to an illuminator, so there's a price to pay for freeing up that space. The Lightning Conductor upgrade will forever protect your boat from lightning strikes, eliminating the need for a lightning rod. It even provides light after a hit, and the extra gold nugget cost compared to a rod seems entirely negligible when compared to the savings of real estate on your deck. Now you're going to want as much room to maneuver around your boat as possible for dealing with the new mobs. Sharks now spawn in the ocean and jump onto boats with the intent of chomping your face. They bite 3 times for a total of 90 damage, so you will need to be ready for a fight every time you hop onto a boat. There is a way to kite their attack though. Lure them to one side of the boat and attack them twice as soon as they land. You will still have time to dodge the first bite. Now they will do their triple chomp 1 to 3 times, and then they'll turn to bounce off the boat. If you're quick enough, you can sneak in one more hit before they disembark. They have a lot of health, but if you do manage to kill one, you get a decent reward of fish. Feel free to eat raw shark, it will not hurt your sanity. And before you ask, yes, you can telelocate sharks onto land. They will flop around and then bounce on over to the nearest body of water. So if you happen to have some landlocked water formations, these guys make excellent decornivores. I'm sorry. I hope you enjoyed your shadow-free sailing thus far. Now, say hello to the Terror Claw. This thing has as much health and damage as the Terror Beak and will swing at you from the side of your boat. You can get in 1 to 2 hits after dodging the swipe, but things can quickly get tricky with more than one of these coming for you at the same time. So do be mindful of your sanity. Speaking of which, there's another danger from having low sanity. At night, you will want to listen for the sounds of Wavy Jones, a shadow mob that will mess your boat up. This thing is able to pop your boat patches off, unfurl your mast, generally just cause a lot of havoc in a short amount of time. Be sure to step on its head to make it disappear as soon as you see the shadow arms creeping onto your boat. I've seen this jerk sink a fully repaired ship in less than 10 seconds, so send him off before he can do too much damage. Seaweeds have been added to the ocean. About time we get some more plant carnivores in DST. Lure plants finally have some big brothers to look up to. These bulbs grow atop sea stacks and will emit the occasional cloud of pollen into the water, which will attract nearby fish. This is where we can find Barnacles, a brand new food item which has a few unique uses in crockpot dishes. Harvesting a seaweed will give 3 barnacles, after which point they will slowly regrow, about 1 every few days. The thing is, harvesting the barnacles with your bare hands will aggro the seaweed, which will start to spew seed shells at you. These hit as hard as a dark sword, and if you dodge it, then it'll poke a hole in your boat. Yeah, no. So how do you safely harvest barnacles? Craft some shears and wait until the seaweeds are passed out at night. Just pretend they're sea beefalo and it's the night before winter. They'll leave you alone. Or you could just ask your friendly neighborhood wormwood to go get your barnacles with their bare hands. The stalks will not bother them. You can also fight them. They're easy to stun lock, just watch out for nearby plants that might get aggroed. Once killed, they drop their barnacles, a couple of seed shells, and a sea sprout starter. These can be planted on any sea stack to grow a new seaweed, which can be useful if you are trying to harvest barnacles on a regular basis and want the weeds in a more convenient location. The seed shells can be equipped and thrown as a projectile. The barnacle should be cooked up as soon as possible because not only does this eliminate the sanity penalty, but it also more than doubles the spoilage time. For crockpot purposes, they contain meat and fish value, and are worth 1/4 of each. This makes them the first food in the game to have a quarter of a food value for anything, which is going to change the way we think about minimum food values for many crockpot recipes. More on that soon. Around the seaweeds can be found spittle fish, a new fish that is attracted to the pollen spewed from the weeds. As far as fishing goes, berries and seeds seem to work well as lures. Yeah, this update is hell-bent on getting you to stop using fire pits on your boat because the spittle fish, they like cosplaying as flingamatics. Once caught, they are actually used in a new crafting recipe, the water pump. This thing can be installed on your boat and will continue to spew salt water as long as a player is there to man the pump. It does a good job at putting out fires, but is also flammable itself. So if it starts smoldering, you will need to hold down action button to put it out with your bare hands, and then spam right click to enter the pumping animation before the wood starts to smolder again. It can also be tricky to click on the pump when the rest of your boat is smoldering. I think they should make it so the pump can be activated with the action button, and maybe prioritize that over putting out nearby smoldering boat sections. What's interesting is you can't activate the pump while it's smoldering, but you can while it's actually burning. Either way you're gonna take damage, but it's easier to target the pump after it started burning. Yeah, this will probably get reworked. Okay, now it's cooking time. We have 8 new crockpot recipes to cover. The first 4 use barnacles, so let's cover those first. One nice thing about all these recipes is that they have no filler restrictions, so feel free to use twigs once you meet the requirements of each dish. Stuffed fish heads require a total of 1.25 fish, and must contain at least 1 barnacle. It's a pretty well-balanced dish that ups the hunger efficiency of fish at a decent tick, plus the added healing is a very nice bonus. In terms of stats, the dish is similar to bacon eggs, with the big difference being the incredibly short spoilage time, so don't cook it unless you're ready to eat it. Barnacle Pita is much simpler. It needs 1 barnacle and any veggie. Stat-wise, it's identical to butter muffin, and the recipe is similar as well. Considering the low cost, I'd say it gives a fair amount of hunger, and it will make for another decent and cheap healing dish. Barnacle Nigiri is a bit more of a specialty dish, requiring 1 barnacle, 1 egg, and 1 kelp. If you have all your seaweeds and bull kelp in the same place for harvesting, then you could convert 1 barnacle into an egg and you'd have everything you need to make this. Healing is nice, and its stats are identical to fish sticks. So as long as you use a barnacle and a twig, even if you mess up the other ingredients, you will still most likely get fish sticks. Barnacle Linguine needs 2 barnacles and 2 full value veggies. This excludes mushrooms, kelp, and cactus flowers. It's nice when you get a well-balanced dish that only needs 2 ingredients. With a couple of stone fruit and seaweeds, you have everything you need to make a good hunger dish that also restores sanity. Barnacles certainly have cooking uses aside from these recipes. They will really shine in dishes that have no minimum required value for fish or meat. Meatballs, for instance, can be made with 1 barnacle and 3 eggs or ice. Honey nuggets can be made with a barnacle and honey. Just be aware that any veggie added will give you pita, but most of the other fillers seem fair game. Now, the final 4 recipes call for a food item that has been around the game since the start, but its uses have always been somewhat limited, which is disappointing considering how easy it is to farm. I'm talking about leafy meat. And I am so excited that lure plants, one of the most criminally underrated resources in the game, now produce food which can be used in crockpot recipes. And a couple of these are extremely powerful. Please watch my guide on lure plant uses if you haven't already done so, because this food just graduated from not bad to overpowered. Leafy meat now has a 1 meat value, and you can use it as such in any crockpot recipe. Monster meat and leafy meat combined will provide 2 meat to any dish, which for the majority of recipes is more than you need. However, you will always want to avoid cooking more than 1 leafy meat in the same dish, or else you get leafy meatloaf, a high priority food that does not give you a lot of bang for your buck. You can think of it as a much more forgiving monster lasagna, but you can almost always do better with just 1 leafy meat in a recipe. As someone who has not eaten a piece of red meat for years, I was tickled to see the Veggie Burger finally added to Don't Starve Together. Unfortunately, it's shaping up to be a novelty dish, much like the steamed ham sandwich from Hamlet. It requires 1 leafy meat, 1 onion, and another 1 value worth of veggies. So, if you're not Warley, you now have a use for onions aside from salsa. But it's such a rare crop that I do think this recipe should provide a bit more hunger value, especially considering the hunger of other onion dishes like bon bouillon and moqueca. Okay, let's talk about jelly salad. I mean, let's really talk about this for a moment. 2 leafy meat, 2 sweetener, 50 sanity. Do you hear that, Wigford mains? Y'all finally got your own ice cream. In truth, this dish is far superior to ice cream by every metric. Cheap recipe with very common ingredients, better hunger, almost twice the spoilage time, and it won't flip and freeze you while fighting Fuel Weaver in winter. I am so glad to see a simple and powerful sanity dish added. As far as crockpot dishes go, we were absolutely in need of this. If you forget all the other information here, remember the jelly. The last dish is beefy greens. Stat-wise, it is basically a meaty dragon pie, although the ingredients are much cheaper. 1 leafy meat and a total value of 3 veggies. So, considering the rarity of dragon fruit and the time spent farming it, this dish is indisputably better. The only downside is its low spoilage time, but honestly, I rarely use dragon pie for long boss fights because it wastes a lot of hunger. But if I get back to base and need some hunger and healing, I can easily crack a few stone fruit and harvest a single lure plant. It should be mentioned that Wirt will not be able to eat any of this clearly disgusting food, but Wigford just got 8 brand new food options added to her pantry, although she seems understandably suspicious of some of the leafy options. Okay, the last bit I wanted to cover actually just came out in a subsequent beta update. Charged Volt Goats are now a possible spawn from hunting dirt piles. You have to do this during a spring rainstorm, and you need to end up in the Oasis Desert, which can actually be challenging because you can't control which way the tracks will lead. Once you spawn that goat though, leave it alone. Because what's more important than the goat is the herd you just created, which up until now has been non-renewable. So if you got unlucky in your world with just 1 herd, you can now create more by going hunting in spring. Excellent implementation of already existing game mechanics in order to improve the renewability of resources. Well done, Clay. That's it for this update. I am looking forward to future releases, and I'm very interested to see what shape this update will take in its full release. Until then, enjoy the beta, and let me know what you think of the new content. I'll leave a link in the description for how to unlock the beta branch in Steam, just in case you need directions. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.